And we are back for another episode of Dead Last Cycling. And this week, we're racing on Gentil 8. With 138 riders turning out, it was a massive field, which meant we were in for a tough race. Despite the field size, things calmed down relatively quickly as everyone had one thing on their mind: Petit KOM, which we are all too familiar with.
Last time up Petit KOM, I came second by under a second, but this is a massive field.
Considering the number of people racing, a good result today would be worth double. I wanted to make sure I didn't sit too deep here in case people managed to split it early, and either way, I needed to put a bit of pressure on the pedals to warm myself up. You might have noticed I'm wearing gloves, and that's because my garage was absolutely freezing. Cold hands or not, the cobblestones quickly had my legs burning.
Legs are feeling heavy. This is final week of my current training block. I got a lot of efforts in the legs, but hopefully they will help me, not hurt me.
With the route relatively unchallenging before Petit KOM, I began to consider power management. And a lot of people, well, they decided to gamble.
A lot of people using their feathers here. They're banking on a nice RNG for the next one. I will not be risking that. I've played too many video games to roll the dice. Keep my right hand as far away from the power up button as possible.
With the feather secured, our experience from racing on Hell in the North 2 weeks ago was forefront in my mind.
This race is going to explode of the second half of Pettycom, if not the first half. But as we saw 2 weeks ago, the first half is pretty shallow, so it'll be hard to get away. But it's going to be really important to get into this climb in the first third of the field. Otherwise, you just give yourself so much to do.
Surprisingly, I managed to execute the run into Petit KOM fairly well, arriving into the base in the front part of the peloton, which is where I spotted a familiar face from last week's race.
Hey, Archer, you think he was in my race last week? That guy's got a big engine. The big guy that puts down some power. He destroyed me on the flats last week.
Now that the KOM had started, it was once again time for suffering. 6 to 7 minutes of pain. As we pointed out earlier, the first half of Petit KOM is quite shallow, so it's important to draft as much as possible and save whatever legs you can for the steeper second half. With such a large group arriving together though, gaps early were inevitable.
Bit of a split there. Flattens out here. Got to time the gear change. Think I went a bit too early.
I was managing to keep us up near the front in a decent position, but I was starting to really feel it. And as more and more gaps started to open, I kept having to dig deep to make sure I didn't get left behind. And it was hurting.
We got 2 deep sections left. I'm deep in a hole here. Left quad is really hurting.
I was holding my feather for the final ramp up to the summit, hoping that 10% less weight could push me into the descent with the front group. Once we got past this cobblestone reprieve, I hit my feather and made my move towards the front, and I got agonizingly close, but as the climb flattened out over the top, my legs were seizing up, and I just didn't have the pop needed to bridge to the 3 guys off the front. On the descent, I made some digs to try and animate the chase, but I didn't have the legs needed to sustain any sort of effort, and I had to settle in and recover. Once the road leveled off, I tried again, but I couldn't manage much of a pull, and with only Mr. Bear interested in helping, things did not look good. Hopefully one day they add voice chat to Zwift, because trying to type with a heart rate in the 170s is not for me. With Group 2 syndrome setting in, the gap started to stretch out in front of us, with 5 seconds quickly becoming 10 seconds, and 10 seconds becoming...
Nah, they're gone. 17 seconds, they're gone.
I was in the struggle a bit today, with some discomfort and cramping in my left hip and hamstring.
Not sure if I'll sprint for this. My left, hip.
I decided to settle in and skip the sprint. Just ride in, nice and gently, on the back of the group. That is, until this happened. That triggered my toxic trait, or at least one of the many. Like Michael Jordan said, I took it personally and instantly decided we would be sprinting. It was laser focus time. The race was back on. Now, sprinting is something that hasn't gone particularly well for us in the past, but I think in the past week or so I've identified an issue with my technique which was holding us back. I've been throwing my weight too far forward and not getting any help from gravity to keep grinding out the watts. Before long though, it was time to put theory into practice. Third place, and whilst the win still evades us, we did win the sprint for the last spot on the podium, and it's a podium that honestly I am really pleased with. To come third out of a field of 138 is not easy, and that, coupled with a much improved sprint on previous attempts, is really pleasing. We'll be back next week as Tour de Zwift 2026 kicks off on turf and surf. See you then.